Welcome to this video on how to teach in a hybrid mode. My name is Associate Professor Sarah Prestridge and I'm from Griffith University in Australia. We know from the previous videos that when we talk about hybrid teaching, it's like the idea of the term blended in the fact that we have these two different learning spaces, but the relationship between those spaces matter. So such that it might be mixed, but it happens when you're in the classroom because we understand that these spaces offer different learning opportunities for students. Now, when some examples of hybrid teaching might be doing a fully online class, in an online, creating an online module, and the students work through that with the teacher supporting those students in the classroom, or over a timetabled week of work, the students could also be doing some class focused lessons and some online lessons. But the point through that week is that they're connected. And that goes with the first one there. When you teach a student a normal timetabled lesson set in the classroom, what do we really call normal anyway? So a lesson in the classroom, but the location where the students are might be in the library or outside when they're doing some of the more self-independent online activities. So some key understandings that inform this type of approach are that and they come from the online teaching theories and practices that have emerged as part of remote schooling, and then as we've moved into these blended hybrid teaching models in classrooms over the last 12 months, is the fact that students have greater choice when they're actually in the online mode. They have more opportunities to work when they want to work, and they have more opportunities to do the particular tasks when they set those tasks. So you might set a whole lot of tasks and they have greater choice of when to work through those. Greater choice is really important in the online to create that design so that they're having greater choice, because the roles often change when students are in this mode. The teacher has less control because control of student activity or regulating student activity happens because they're bounded in a classroom space. But when they're online, they have to self-regulate and effort regulate, and their choice in task and the length of task and time that they're engaging in that and persisting with that activity is theirs, and their choice to respond or not respond, like it is in the classroom, is more obvious when they're online. So even though children and students have greater choice, have choice to learn, to engage or not, it's clearer that when they're not engaging, and it's also clearer when they are being when they're engaging and when they're not engaging. So student choice actually does matter, and how you design that matters. The idea that these spaces are network spaces, so they don't live in the the space doesn't look or feel like, but also act like a classroom space. So they're based on networking activity. And what I mean from that is it's all about connecting students to students, and you being one of the co-learners as part of that role as a teacher in that space, because online learning is about connected learning. It's about joining the connections and working with others on tasks and connecting with each other. It's not this type of activity where videos or resources are just sent out to students. It's more about trying to engage students with each other in network learning ways. So they're co-constructing ideas. It also can happen anytime. So there's less boundaries for when learning occurs. In a classroom, it's that 45-minute timetabled activity, but in an online environment, it can happen a lot of the time at any time. So the design of the activity is really important, and I go through that in series number 3 and how to actually design the online environment so that they're supported to engage through in ways that they have greater choice. So all these sort of ideas about online teaching work together. So what I mean by that is that synchronous, asynchronous activities, the anytime activities, form the basis of online activity, where they might be doing it, when they're home, or sometimes timetabled in the classroom. But those activities, or remotely, those activities, they can choose when to do those, but within time frames of what you're asking them to do over a period of time, so that the time frames blur when you're working in these online spaces. Now, to help structure those online teaching activities and its relationship to classroom learning, so this notion of hybrid, I've designed this concept of digital teaching principles to guide the design of the actual hybrid teaching. So I'll just go through this model, but this model is available. I've done other videos on this model, and I'll add to this area some other links where I talk about this model in more depth. But really the key to online learning, which is related to classroom learning, is in the centre of this diagram. It's where you build students' capability to learn in a space with the digital tools, both in the classroom and online. So what does co-construction actually mean? How do I do that? What are those steps to help me as a student do that activity? How can I as a teacher work as a co-learner? How can I model those sort of type of activities? Because that modelling and that instruction on how to learn in these spaces is absolutely critical to working in these mixed environments. The digital learning space matters. So which particular tools you are using actually has a lot of influence on the type of activities and type of relationships and opportunities for learning that happen. So your choice of digital tool is really important. The basis of a lot of the work in these online spaces is about building relationships. It's about, and specifically building student-to-students capabilities to learn together and work together in these environments. So there's a lot of emphasis, and that's why those hexagons are are bigger. So the bigger ones, the relative size of these hexagon matters. An inquiry approach has to be adopted when they're doing the work online. So it's not just that inquiry processes and teaching happens in classrooms, which it does, but that sort of type of work has to be part of the online environment as well, where ideas are pushed, boundaries are presented. Students provide exemplars of what you're asking them to learn about. Then you build on those ideas with them. So that sort of inquiry approach is critical in these spaces, that it's not just like content-driven resource or activity sheets that they're doing or listening to videos in this environment. So it's a very active learning space. Having routines, procedures and boundaries is also clearly important, but as you can see, those are developed through how to actually learn. So these are all very connected together, of course. So overall, that gives a clear example of how to structure and what's important when you're thinking about designing learning online with students. This is available on my website, but it gives you an overview of all those different components of the digital teaching principles. Now, for more information and more videos, please go to that QR code or it's in that very, very long URL there. But I hope you got something out of this video. Thank you.